In our history, it is known that in many discoveries, Native Americans were subjected to their land getting taken away from them, being looked down upon, as well as being abused. But the discovery of Jamestown, Virginia, and the Plymouth colony seem to have gone differently. To establish a colony in Jamestown, Virginia, 144 males took off from England in December of 1606. The journey was documented by George Percy and published in the Discourse of the Plantation of the Southern Colony in Virginia by the English in 1606. It is also important to note that George Percy was the governor of the Virginia colony. The discovery of the Plymouth colony had been recorded by William Bradford in surviving the first winter of the Plymouth colony. Bradford became the governor of the colony after the Mayflower Compact was signed and remained the governor until his passing in 1657. The journey of discovering both Virginia and Plymouth were very similar in that they both had to heavily rely on the assistance of Native Americans to survive, as well as the unfortunate amount of fatalities they had to endure during the expeditions. The explorers in the Virginia journey made somewhat of a bond with the Native Americans, which the Plymouth colonists didn't have in the beginning. The Englishmen were invited to join ceremonies held by the natives, where they were treated with respect, provided with food, and introduced them to things that were a part of their culture. The Native Americans were nice enough to somewhat cohabitate with the Englishmen when they came over. There were some Native Americans who were not at all happy with them coming over and having to share their land, but the leader of Fesify did his best to ease the tensions amongst the natives. He made the statement, "Why should you be offended with them? As long as they hurt you not, nor take anything away by force. They take but a little waste ground, which does you nor any of us any good, just to keep the peace with the Native Americans as well as the Englishmen." Within the Plymouth colony, there was a shift from a group of Native Americans helping sailors to only one person due to the deadly diseases that had gone in and wiped out almost the whole Native American colony that they had built and the families that they had made and things like that. Then, because of that, the Native Americans weren't so happy about having such sickly people there, and there were also even people who would, and some of the Native Americans who would come in and take away some of the tools that the Englishmen had brought over with them. It had gotten so bad that the Native Americans wouldn't even come anywhere near the Englishmen. If they did, they would run away as far as they possibly could because they knew that they didn't want to get sick, like people that they had known to be sick and things like that. Although some of the Native Americans would give the Englishmen a hard time, there were about 3 that were kind of essential in helping out some of the Englishmen. But there were 2 in particular that had a huge effect on making sure that the Englishmen knew how to plant corn, where to take the fish at, as well as navigate for the English, and that was Squanto. Squanto had been to England once, not by choice but by force. He was kidnapped and was somehow able to come back over to back to Plymouth, which is where he was originally from. Squanto introduced the Englishmen to the chief who had come up with the peace treaty, unlike the Virginia's Native Americans. Although there were some Native Americans who didn't want them there, both Virginia and Plymouth could come to agreements that allowed them to coexist with each other.